You got a list to provide yourself,
like it.
don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go ahead, dive in.
So, Sean Payton, 8. Now,
Yeah.
when you look at these coaches, I look at Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh, both as great culture builders, right? The Broncos were a mess last year, gave up 60 points to Miami. What does he do? Next year, turns around, takes rookie quarterback, takes him to the playoffs. Now, I think Sean Payton is one of the greatest offensive minds in the league,
Yep.
and I like him a lot. But I would take the guy at number 7 before him, Jim Harbaugh. Wherever this guy goes, wins.
Yeah.
Wherever he leaves, they're a mess.
Yeah.
You saw it with Stanford. Michigan is a mess. They got their win against Ohio State. That's about it.
Yep.
Went to the Super Bowl with Niners, lost to his brother. I mean, wherever he goes, they win. And they're just great. And it's such a culture builder.
History of family royalty with
Yeah.
John Harbaugh right next to him. This is a family that's cultivated wins through and through.
Jim Harbaugh is great. And last year, Chargers defense was one of the worst in the leagues. They gave up 60 on Thursday Night Football primetime against the Raiders. And they didn't change any personnel except, I think his name's AJ Mitchell. The DC and Jim Harbaugh are the only 2 guys who changed. And now the defense this year is one of the best.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't take him above number 6, Matt LaFleur.
Oh, yeah.
3 straight 13-win seasons. Now, take it granted, he had Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, who I still believe in Jordan Love. I think that was more of a bad game.
I do too.
Than a bad sign.
But I do think there was a fall off from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. Not maybe talent-wise, but the overall feel around the building.
Yes, this is Jordan Love's 5th year in the NFL, but you got to think this is only his 2nd year starting. He sat for 3 years. We saw C.J. Stroud have a pretty bad slump. And let's not forget, Philly is one of the toughest places to play in the league. So Jordan Love had no weapons. They were falling like flies. So everywhere he went, he had no weapons. So I love Matt LaFleur. And you saw him take his team last year into Dallas. So I love him. MCDC, Dan Kimball 5. Now, this guy does not have the accolades or the stats or the awards that these other guys have so far. But he has only been a coach for 5 years. His first year was in
Miami.
2015 Miami interim head coach. We're not going to count that. Besides that, with Detroit, in 3 years, he took them from a 3-win team to, I think, a 10 or 11-win team. And now this year, the number 1 seed, like 15-win team, 15-2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Clap it up.
He's a great culture builder.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think we can say is he has the most sought-after coordinators. He has Ben Johnson, who is going to be a head coach next year.
Yep.
He has a defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, who's probably going to be a head coach next year. So how much of this is actually Dan Campbell? We know the culture building is Dan Campbell, and so that's why I still think he's great.
Yeah.
He makes me want to run through a wall. So
100%.
He's great.
I will touch on very quickly with defensive and offensive coordinators. Although they are extremely talented and they could go somewhere and be a head coach, I'm going to pull him out of the bag again. Look at Todd Bowles, right? Great DC. Not a great head coach. I don't think all these guys have the head coaching talents. I don't think Dan Campbell could be an OC or DC. But I think as a head coach, he works beautifully.
He does. And you also got to take into consideration the Lions have arguably the best O-line besides the Eagles.
Yep.
The best weapons, the best running back room, and a very capable quarterback who's been to the Super Bowl before Lions. So he's got a very talented roster, arguably the best. So without the talented roster, I don't know where he would be. But we have him at 5. Mike Tomlin, 4.
Yeah.
I'm not as high on him as everyone else seems to be. I like him, and I think if he was released or let go, he would be available for no more than 5 seconds. He would be snagged right up. But I think it's time for a refresher in Pittsburgh.
Ooh.
That's being real. There's no hate, but I think Russell Wilson is not. I think it's the least of the problems right now for Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah.
Steelers led the league in defensive spending for 3 years in a row now, and their defense in the playoffs, when it mattered, give up 300 yards in the first half. So how are you going to let the side of the ball that you spend the most money on, and Steelers' culture is defense?
Yeah.
I think it's time for something new, refresh. I don't think you got to worry about Russ.
And I don't hate it.
No.
I don't hate it. I think he's going to wind up keeping his job just because of how prominent he's been through the years. But, I mean, it would never hurt to try something new.
And the Steelers have known to be loyal to their guys. Like, up top, they're loyal. So they may not let go of him, but everyone says, yeah, he's never had a losing season in 18 years. Yeah, but is that the standard? I mean, you've lost 6 straight postseason games, and they're all wildcard games. So at what point do you hold on to that never lost, had a losing season? So I would take the guy above him, John Harbaugh. They're both, I look at these guys about the same. Mike Tomlin, 18 years, John Harbaugh, 17. John Harbaugh leaves in all coaches for away game wins in the postseason. Obviously, Andy Reid's been in the league longer. He would probably have that record, except all of Andy Reid's playoff games are at home.
Yeah.
But John Harbaugh is great, and I like him a lot. But I would take Sean McVay. Probably, I may be a little high on him, but I love Sean McVay. 8 years coaching, been to 2 Super Bowls, and I just love his offensive mind, what he's done. Arguably the youngest defense in the league, and he's just been great, and you can never count them out. I think Stafford and McVay have to be probably the second best quarterback coach combination, only besides number 1, Andy Reid and Mahomes. Andy Reid with KC, right? KC, 12 years with KC.
Yep.
733 win percentage. That's insane. He's got 3 rings with the Chiefs. They've got 8 straight AFC appearances, 7 straight AFC appearances.
Yeah, every year that Patrick Mahomes has been a quarterback, he's either been to the Super Bowl or been to the AFC Championship.
Yeah.
But he, as a starter, he has never once missed the AFC Championship.
Yep, and looking to keep that going. But with the Chiefs, he's got 42 playoff appearances.
Jeez.
And with this game against Houston, it's going to be 43, and he's been to 5 Super Bowls. I mean, it is basically Andy Reid, and then everyone else has a huge gap.
Oh, my God. You know, you really don't take those numbers and stats into account until you actually see them on paper.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You look at, he's played 43 playoff games, and maybe watching and somebody says it on there, it doesn't register. But when you actually look at the numbers, it is crazy what he's been able to do.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Alex Smith, Pat Mahomes, that translation.
One of the best of all time.
It's crazy.
No doubt.
The reigning undisputed head coach currently. Maybe of all time. We're going to wait and see.
He can
three-peat,
be the
I think,
first
does it.
to three-peat.
The first ever.
Let's start with that.
Wow. But moving ahead into the postseason, only a few of them are left
Yep.
standing.
Now
Right?
there's actually 8 remaining.
It's crazy.